Poquito podcast. Poquito podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Un Poquito podcast. I'm Ryan Reyes.
I'm Dominic Angel.
And I'm Reagan Macias.
And I'm Josh the American.
Well, you're bringing back the American.
Oh, damn.
It's
resurrected from the dead.
It's a habit now, dude. I call myself Josh the American in real life. Yeah.
To be honest, that's how you are in my phone, and I can't remember your last name sometimes.
It's fine, me either.
Can I be honest? Wait, I can't tell your last name, huh?
I don't want to.
Okay.
Benjamin.
Yeah. Sorry.
Wait, why?
Because I have your I have your name on my phone wrong. I've never corrected it. It's missing a letter at the end.
That's crazy.
You have to cut all that.
That's my least favorite thing about you now.
Now.
Yeah. Now.
There's a long list, apparently.
Should we haven't really discussed this, but I feel like we should talk about it. We took the Josh the American episode down because since the beginning, since we had Martin Amini on the podcast, we developed a Josh the American character, and it just wasn't reading as a character.
I know. People think I'm really a weird guy or something, or evil.
I mean,
Yeah.
right now, this whole outfit you got going on, it's hard to tell.
For the people that are watching, Josh looks like if the Seinfeld theme became a sweater. This is going to be, I don't know how this is going to go. Today's episode, we're going to get on track. This is just going to be an open, honest episode, I guess. We didn't come with like a topic in the Latino community. I kind of just wanted this to be a personal episode because there's been a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. And, when this year started and we decided to come back strong and come back ready, we're trying our best to maintain the focus of the podcast and the quality of the podcast. And it's been kind of weighing on me a lot. And recently,
Did you say Wang?
Josh the American, everybody. Give it up for him. He's back.
He's back.
In the flesh. No, I've been going through some shit, to be frank. I feel like we had the Josh the Nihilist episode, and now it's my turn. Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
It wasn't you. It didn't do that to you. You didn't have that effect on me. It was just some recent stuff that happened, honestly. So this is what I've been going through. On Thursday, we posted the clip of Ricky's story that he shared with us. Also, I have to say, I don't know if we need to do this on the pod, but I just wanted to really take a second to tell Ricky thank you for sharing that story. I kind of did it in the episode, but we just brushed over it. Sometimes when we get into podcasting, I get into production mode and I get focused on the goal. And sometimes I don't consider how things might affect people. And I was always self-conscious about how I came off in that episode of forcing Sylvia to cry. People were like, "You're a psychopath."
You're our Shelley Duvall.
Sorry.
Who's that?
It's from The Shining.
Oh, yeah.
Kubrick pushed them pretty hard, and I was just talking about
We were talking about
how
that
directors should be allowed to drive their actors to a point to get a good performance. But I guess I was wrong on that. But he's a hypocrite because
All he
it to
did
you.
was ask, and I was like, guess I'll cry. I guess I needed it too. I don't know. A little embarrassing, but I like that people connected to it.
No, I don't think it was embarrassing at all. I was watching it and I was like, my God, I've never been this honest about myself ever.
Clearly.
I don't know. What do you mean?
I'm just
You
kidding.
talking about my mustache?
Yeah, it just honestly, that clip was a big part in it because when we were recording it, I was just like, this is going to do fucking numbers for the podcast. And when we were cutting the clip, when we were cutting the clip, it was stuff where I was just like, okay, here, this is the, you just see, there's a thing when I used to shoot documentary footage for people. There's a thing where once you have a camera in front of your face, like it's like a force field. And like you separate yourself from reality because it's just you're watching through a screen. And so a lot of times when we're editing the podcast and I'm making clips, like I don't necessarily see everything through the lens of like, that's me. It's just like, it just becomes content. And so there's a separation. And I did that with this clip. I was like, how do I make this compelling? And like Josh finished the clip for me and like sent it to me. And I was just like, something's missing. And I was like, we got to add like music under this to like really drive it home. And it was like, and then I posted it and then it started doing well. And I was like, hell yeah, it's doing well. And then like, I was like, Ricky, you need to get in there and make yourself known so people can follow you. And like, but I was like, still just like thinking about like the end goal for the show. And then, dude, so many comments in that one, talking about Ricky and how great Ricky is.
Yeah.
And I honestly, it's the truth. Like people are not fortunate enough to know Ricky the way that we do. And like we've been doing comedy for like 8 years now together.
Yeah.
And it's all true. Like everything that everybody says, like it's all evident in the clip. And like, but it was also just like reading people's comments, like hundreds of comments about parents, like people feel about their parents or how parents feel about their kids and like trauma and all this stuff. And dude, reading hundreds of those comments in a day, it was like, oh shit, it was like overwhelming. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, like I was kind of like, clearly there's a part of me that needed to say it out loud on a camera, but
you don't have to say it in front of a camera.
No, but I was like, it was kind of like a moment to do it, and I did it. But it was just interesting to see that many people connect with it, because I don't know, like you grow up. I don't think it's just exclusive to like Latino families, but I've noted like crying is not very embraced at times. Like a child crying, a child's like pain or whatever.
Right.
And then so to like cry out loud as an adult and then just tell a story and then people are like, yay. Like just for people to be accepting of it and embracing of it was like also good for me. Like I guess for my inner child, I guess.
Yeah, no, I could imagine. I was like, that's what I was saying. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Because when I was editing the clip, I was like, I felt a little. I was like, man, I don't know. I don't cry. I don't cry like that. Not in front of people.
Yeah,
So I was like, damn. That's why I was like, he's being so vulnerable. I've never been this vulnerable on a camera before. So
yeah, I thought it was honestly thought it was a mistake.
I don't know. I don't think so, man. It was plenty of ladies. So
many women. I just want to hug them. And
then I was like, shoot.
Somebody was like, I'm depressed, and they're like, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You're gross.
Somebody was like, a hug, give this man a blowjob. I thought that shit was hilarious.
Oh, wow.
That was so funny.
That was
I was like, ooh.
I was like, hell yeah, dude.
I've had a similar experience, but not as sentimental. No, I get called cute a lot, and sometimes it's frustrating because I can't tell what they mean. Like, there was someone I followed who I found attractive, and then they followed me back, and I was like, oh, wow. And then we started talking, and they were like, yeah, I followed you because I think you're cute. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we kept talking. He was like, oh, she means adorable. That's not the same now.
Yeah, there's a difference. It's like when a chick will tell me she likes my hair or she's jealous of my hair, and it turns out she just wants to steal my hair.
Yeah, she just likes your hair.
My hair.
Like, she's not interested in you.
That's a funny thing because I've had like friends constantly be like, was that person flirting with me? It's like, no. They want to do that to themselves.
Yeah. I've never been jealous of anyone's hair.
I thought you were going to go for the reveal right now.
No.
You're bald? Yeah, no, there's just like spending the whole day. And I will say this because I would feel like a liar if I didn't say this part. Was I took a little bit of mushrooms. And I meant to microdose, but I took a little bit too much. And it was so funny because it was, you know how we were talking with Sylvia and she was saying we talked about like getting yourself to that point of being able to cry, like holding stuff back and not wanting to cry.
Sad
like,
edging.
Sad edging. But it was essentially like needing something like a catalyst to get you to like break the levee and like just cry. And I don't know, I've just been so focused on stuff where I just feel like I've been ignoring a lot of feelings, and like something about just like taking a slightly stronger dose got me thinking about all kinds of life stuff and like what I've been through and like how I feel about my parents and how, you know, what I want out of life. And like, this sounds silly. Freaking shout out to Celeste because she made fun of us for our show about nothing, and she's like, man takes drugs and discovers empathy. Which is true, which literally happened in this moment. I took some mushrooms and I started crying and I was like, "Wah."
I'm sad.
But it was just like it happened in the wrong place. I took it at work. Sometimes I'll take I like carry some with me and I'll just take some at work, and not to get high, but it's just like part of my routine.
Like that microdose level.
Yeah, I just do microdoses, and I've been doing that for a few months now, and I've been feeling a lot of benefits. What?
You can't take 5 microdoses in a day.
It wasn't 5. It wasn't 5.
It's not microdosing. When you take a bunch of microdoses, it's not a microdose.
It's a slow drip throughout the day.
Slow drip.
Yeah, I don't ever get above, a certain level. I maintain.
I make sure it's not fun.
Homeostasis.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, it's fine. But I've been microdosing for a minute, and like I believe in the benefits of it. Like it's helped me a lot in the recent months, and it was just this moment. Like it was the thing that I guess I needed. I remember one time my friend had told me like a piece of advice for like going on trips, and he's like, look, this isn't going to fix anything. It's a perspective changer, and it's going to bring the thoughts that you need to work through to the forefront, and you're just going to have to be prepared to deal with what comes. And what?
I just don't have that kind of experience. It's so crazy.
Really?
Yeah, when I'm on shrooms, I'm like, the Kardashians are Egyptians.
I don't get it. Yeah, sorry. I don't know. But it was just like, anyway, long story short, it's not going to be a drug talk, but it just like, it pushed me over, like the levee broke, and I was like crying. I was crying at work. I had to leave work early because I was just like, I was holding back tears, and like I just had to leave. And as soon as I got home, I like was just fucking sobbing. I was like letting it all out. It was like animalistic, like just like heaving, and
those are good though.
It did feel good afterwards. Like I felt so much I felt like tension in my neck was released, like tension in my body was released that I had been like keeping in. My whole body was tight. And
hell yeah, dog.
I don't know. It just got me. I feel like every time I reach like an age milestone, not that I'm 32, but it's like I've had conversations throughout the years. I remember having a conversation with Ricky when I turned 26, and I was just explaining how like I felt something felt off, like I felt weird. And then Ricky was like, well, you turned 26, like your frontal lobe is like finishing up, like developing, and like that happens with people. And I feel like that's what happened with this, was just like, I don't know. I've just like aging life shit has been on my mind lately. I don't know if you guys think, I mean, clearly we had a whole conversation about it, but like this whole weekend since Thursday, I've just been like this, I won't call it a rut, but it was like just the thought of like thinking about what do I really want out of life,
Yeah. I think, definitely psychedelics can be part of that. It's not going to be all drug talk, but I think part of that is like having that brain. Maybe putting too much weight on the fully formed thing, but like having that brain for long enough where like you could think about your priorities and what you want,
Mm-hmm.
and you could reflect better than you used to be able to. And what am I trying to say? It gets to a point where it's hard not to think about what you want and what you need.
Yeah.
Because it's like you got to marry. I feel like you got to marry those things, right? Because when you're in your 20s, you're like, this is what I want.
Mhm.
There's this idea of your life you sell yourself, and then you get closer to your 30s and you start really thinking about what maybe you need, and then you get into your 30s and maybe you're like, oh, these are the things I need, and it's hard to not realize that, or not. It's hard to keep ignoring what I really need, and that's not always fun because you have this like romance of yourself from your 20s of what you
Mhm.
could have been or what you thought you were supposed to be, and then you're like, but this is what I need, and maybe this is who I am, and maybe it's just for now, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. The biggest thing for me, and it's semi-official, it's not a real thing, but it's like the biggest conclusion that I came to through all of this is like I really want to give as much mental energy as I can to growing this show because it's something that I've loved doing and I feel like I haven't given it all of my attention. But it's like others, it's not even that. The show in and of itself, the show in and of itself is it's what I want to be doing, like it's what I'm passionate about. And I think that, you know, I've identified myself as a comedian for so long. And I remember my first 3 years specifically, I was like really good and I was making a lot of progress and I was meeting a lot of people and I was getting booked and I could see my trajectory, you know, and stuff happened to me. I bought a house and like I've had to take so many steps away from comedy over the years, but it's always like, I'm going to get back in. I'm going to get back in. I'm going to get back in. And like, I just haven't been able to do that. And now, you know, I'm 32. So as long as I've been in comedy, it's been 5 years later since I like took my first like major break from stand up. And I just, over the last 5 years, I haven't been able to re-enter it. And I just like, I was at a show recently that an unnamed comic was headlining. And I talked to him afterwards and I was like, great show. He's a friend of ours. And I was like, great show. He had just come back from being on the road for a couple weeks. And he goes, I asked him like, how were your road shows? And he's like, yeah, you know, it was great. You know, I did a bunch of shows and I did well. But the thing is like, I'm out there and I'm just like, I don't feel the calling to need to be on stage. You know, it's like, it's not going to give me a happy life. And he goes, ultimately, that's going to be my downfall in this industry. And like we were talking about people like Shane Bianchi and Shane Bianchi is somebody who you guys should check out. Very funny comedian, but he's one of these guys that I remember from when I started out. Like that's how I was, where it's like you're hungry for it and like you just give up yourself to comedy. It's like we were talking about with the Rodney Mullen thing of just like giving yourself up to something. And I just realized, especially over this weekend, of just like, one, I haven't been giving myself up to comedy, but I've been clinging to the identity. And two, I am not in a place in life where I feel like I could keep that up. Like I don't feel like I could give myself up to it. Like I have other stuff that I want out of life, personal stuff, you know. I want, you know, to be in a relationship. I want to, you know, have kids someday. And like, I want to be able to support them. And like, the amount of effort that it takes to do stand up and to be successful at it and to make money off of it and to be able to like have those things is just, it's not impossible, but it's so hard. And there's no like definitive timeline.
yeah,
You
definitely.
know? We know people like, you know, we've met people that only recently are like they've been doing it for so long and are older in their 40s now, and they're only now getting like these big spots.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
like,
I think there's countless examples of people breaking in comedy or in their 40s.
yeah, no,
Oh yeah.
I always, even growing up, like I didn't like young comedians. I
Mhm.
was always like, comedy's an old man's game. Like it's something you got to do with wisdom because that's what makes you funny. Having
I get
insight,
that.
you know.
I get that for sure.
A lot of young people aren't that funny.
Yeah, but it's just like I totally agree with you. Like I think people do tend to be older. I mean, some old people are fucking terrible. Comedy, stand up, like there's a lot of examples of having some like older people being really good at it and people breaking it. Like even like top comics now are like didn't start getting popular until their late 30s.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard to remember to realize that because it's like we've been in comedy so long, like we've known about these people for so long and we've known they're great, but the public, people that aren't into stand up the way that we are, don't know about them, and so like they haven't really broken.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's almost discouraging for yourself. You're like, these people are great, and we'll know people that are starting to get great opportunities, well deserved opportunities. They're going on the road. They're going on the road with headliners and stuff, and then they come back and like, oh yeah, I'm applying for an office job, and like they're still like they're great, but they still got to grind for who knows how long before they get their base strong enough.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a perfect example is like Chris Estrada.
Yeah.
He's not in his 40s, but he was like when he got this full, it was like his late 30s already.
Yeah.
The running joke is that he's like 28 in the show, but he's like in his 30s.
Yeah. Yeah, he was working at a warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like there's so many stories like that where it's like you have to be able to. And at the job I have now, I have like something similar to a warehouse job. And when I first started working there, it was like it's just supposed to be like the benefit of having it was that it was super flexible. Like I would just tell them like, hey, I'm going to be out of town. Like I can't work these days, you know, or I can leave early. Like once I finish my work, I'm not tied to there. So I can go out and do mics and do shows and stuff. But it was just like, I can't keep, at least for me, I can't keep doing this. Like I can't, sorry, I'm not crying. Yeah, I just like, it just was like an overwhelming feeling of like, I can't keep this up. Like I don't have the energy for it. And like, it really put into perspective of like letting go of my ego. And like, there's this, is it sunken cost fallacy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gamblers, the gambler's fallacy.
Also known as gambler's fallacy.
Oh, that's what it's called?
It's sunk cost.
It's the same thing.
But that's what I was feeling of, like, that's what I've been feeling for years of just like, I know I was good.
No,
and I spent all this time doing it. And it's the top thing on my bio on my social media. It's like comedian comes first. And it's funny because I was talking to Josh about it and it's like, I think I've taken a step back from comedy. And he's like, you don't do comedy. I was like, you don't get it, Josh.
No, I get it. I was just giving you shit.
No, I know, but it's the truth. It's like, it's something that I have to keep in perspective.
But
And
also, it's kind of one of those arts where like it is you. It's not just what you do. Like I make music. I haven't made an album since 2017, but that's just it's big. It's a big part of me. It's how I learned how to make art.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like it's the same thing with comedy. Like it's what you do. It's not just like your job or whatever. You know what I mean?
right.
You're a funny dude and you make jokes and you like comedy.
Yeah.
And that's also like, that's how you view the world almost. Like that's one of your main lenses is that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a few more though.
So I can see better.
Sorry, that was two.
Ryan, thoughts?
Right?
Now that
Got
you
a few
can
more
see.
lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody comment how nice Ryan's glasses are.
No, yeah, it might just be because I'm the sort of youngest one of this group. Not sort of, I am.
Of this group.
He's like, but I don't relate to you guys at all.
I'm killing it, dog. No,
Nerds.
because it is something that I struggle with because there's a lot I wish had gone better. Something that I've had to get over specifically is like, I also feel I was on a very particular momentum that got halted unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say I was like killing it, but I was doing at least 2-3 shows a month, which was more than I had done before then. And my account went from like 30 followers to 50 to 300. And I hit, I think, 100,000 a year into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I started moving around a lot. I had to find a new job. Our storefront closed down, so I didn't have like a physical workplace for a minute. And
Yeah, COVID really fucked things up. When we started, I was 24, you were 21, or I think something
right.
like that. I was like 24 and you're 21. And like I started comedy like right when I bought the house.
Right.
And it became an issue. So many things happened for me. I bought a house, I like got a decent job, and I started doing stand up. No, I was doing stand up for 2 years before I bought the house.
Yeah.
But when I bought the house, that's what really fucking made it so hard for me, because I was just like, I ended up paying for that. I had ended up buying it with my older brother, and we were renting rooms, and like even as somebody that was renting rooms, I was trying to be as like fair as possible, where I was like charging people just like what you can, like what can you afford to pay?
Right.
You know, I was charging like $300 for like a room, and it was just so that I wouldn't be paying everything. And then it happened where I had to pay everything out of my own pocket. I don't even remember how much it was, but it was like 2/3 of my income at least.
Yeah.
And so I was like always stretched super thin. That's when I started like living at work, and like that's when I was like that's when I started like doing drugs and like taking meth and like abusing Adderall so I could stay working for crazy hours. And that happened for like 9 months straight that I did that. And like ever since I got back into stand up, it hasn't been the same. And then the thing is, now that I'm in my 30s, there's so many people I see that are like new comedians that are performing.
Yeah.
That's what's so hard for me, is that like it's just like anything, like people want young new faces.
Yeah.
And it's felt so weird to go to mics in LA
Yeah.
that we used to go to that are run by new people that are young, that don't know who we are, that like treat us like outsiders, you know? And it's like we've been here, we've been around, and like we're good, but it's like it's such a weird scene shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I was trying to go. Is I still definitely have a passion for comedy, but it does get to me like how much older I am. And like, I'm not even that much older. I am seeing a lot more people like my age getting into it, but it's still that thing of like, that still also means I'm no longer, you know, I'm the youngest guy in this group, but I'm no longer like one of the young up and comers, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's also where a lot of like unintentional, what's the word I'm looking for? Negative feelings, like animosity towards certain groups of comedians comes from, is like deep down, we know how long it's going to take us to have something, you know, like we know the long path and what that will entail. So to see somebody who like is fresh off of Vine or fresh off TikTok using some other resource, you know, because I don't think that we're upset that they're not working as hard as we are. I think we're upset that they didn't have to work at this to get there, that they were working on some other angle.
I don't know if I necessarily have those feelings about like social media comedians, but I hear what you're saying. I think it's just more of it's a shift. It just happens when you start, and it's a thing that happens in stand up. You're around so many people, and like a perfect example is like somebody like Brian Simpson. I'd never met him. Like I never shook his hand. I never talked to him, but I knew who he was. He used to go to Chatterbox all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and he was supposed to headline. I remember he was supposed to headline Chatterbox, and the week before he was on Rogan. like, and then he like had to drop out because he booked a bunch of shit just off of that appearance, and then he like took off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like that. Tim Dillon, like
Yeah.
I saw the first time I saw him was at Chatterbox, and it's funny because I don't really like. I know a little bit about, but like Ben Avery was his producer, and they
Yeah.
met at that night, and I was there that night that they met,
Oh, really?
and then
Oh, that's
seeing and then seeing Tim Dillon like explode, you know,
Yeah, I think one of my shows was supposed to have Tim Dillon on it.
right?
And he didn't show. He probably got pulled into other stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
But-
interesting.
but I bring them up because they're older. They broke late, but that's what you see is like you see people just staying dedicated to the passion and like connecting to it, and as you get older and as you keep doing it, comedy is such a weird thing because like you see a lot of the work that goes in, you become fans of people, and you look up to people that like somebody like Vince Caldera, who's younger than all of us, and he's one of the best joke writers in my opinion, like working today, and he's on the cusp of like big things.
Definitely.
You know, he got to write for this full season 2. He's been on tour with Alfred Robles, with Melissa Villaseñor. He's doing a lot, and he's younger than all of us.
Yeah.
But he's been doing it longer than us. But he started when
Yeah.
he was like 17, I think.
Yeah, and he's focused.
And he's just focused and driven. And you see that, and like through doing all of this, it's like not that you can't look up to young people, like people that are younger than you.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's an interesting feeling when like you start looking up to people that are younger than you because of their creativity, because of their hard work, because of their ambition, and like because they've figured out how to dedicate themselves, you know.
Yeah, I think that's something that not gets to me, but it is a weird kind of realization. Like, not even just in comedy, seeing people like there's people that I started following during the 2020 that have like blown up in like art and music and even acting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I find out that they're 3-4 years younger than me. That, you know, it's not a bad feeling. It's just like an interesting one. And that's kind of what I was saying before. Is like it's not that I don't like these people. It's like I don't like sometimes knowing like being able to see the path ahead and knowing like having that comparison. I think is a struggle.
Yeah. I'm trying not to be too silly, but you know that song, I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to make you cry. It's like, I never meant to respect you. I never meant to make me cry.
Dude, I used to go through this thing where I would look up when I would see somebody successful, I would look up how old they were, or like I would look up how old somebody was when they got their first major role, or like their first album dropped, or like, you know, their first special when they got a TV show, like stuff like that. It fucking drove me nuts, you know. That's torture. Don't ever do that to
Yeah.
yourself.
No, yeah.
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 For me, it was a different thing. It was like a comparison of like, I was excited because going into it, I had this sort of like, comedy came natural to me. It was the thing that I always thought that I would be good at because I enjoyed it so much. Like, I didn't just like watching comedy. I liked learning about people's processes and like where jokes come from. And, you know, like I'm younger than Pete Davidson. When Pete Davidson blew up, that was like a huge, for me, you know, it was like a sort of an inspirational thing to see. And then 8 years later, I'm older than he was when he got his start. And so
Right.
now that's the comparison in my head.
And there used to be a thing. I used to have friends when I was 18, and when I started like studying film and working in the industry, I had friends at that age that were like, there was this big thing with young filmmakers that they're like first feature at 25 because of P.T. Anderson,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because he directed his first like major film at such a young age. So like so many people are like, that's the thing to strive for.
I had that similar kind of thing with Tyler the Creator because he was so young and like I was making music at the time a lot, and I just seen them. There was just like a moment I had where I was like, "Oh, I'm never gonna do that." Like not be successful, but like these guys gave it up. They fucking gave up everything else, and were like, this is what they're doing this 24/7. They're in the streets. They're fucking doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all the way. Like I don't care about my family's opinion, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's the Latino thing in me, but I was like, I can't do that to my grandma. You know what I mean? I can't just throw it all away.
That's what I'm saying. You have to give up yourself to
Mhm.
these things. Like you really have to release control of it and just like give everything into like what your craft is.
Yes, but there's also a thing of moderation of like, you don't have to. I mean, like you don't have to get to that. Like, are you trying to be a rock star? Are you trying to be a mega star? Or like you can do this thing, be successful at it, and not have to be like in the limelight of Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that's very true.
I think
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
yeah, I do have to get going, but I will end on this personally, and I'll leave it to you guys after this. I totally get what you're saying, and I think that's where I was stuck at with a long time, with like my place in my family, and like just where I felt like I can't leave yet. I can't just risk everything quite yet.
Mhm.
But if I'm going to, I got to make sure I could take care of what I could take care of before I go find my answer. Because there's no guarantee. You have to, like you're saying, you have to give yourself up to some degree. And I think I'm starting to do that now, where I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it my all and do things I'm terrified, and even like share things I'm terrified to share, because that'll give me my answer faster. If this is how I want to do it, then I'm going to try to take care of what I can. I can't do everything, and have those conversations with the people I need to. Like I literally had to have conversations with the people close to me, but like, can we renegotiate what our relationship is?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's had to happen with me too, with my family. That's why I'm like, I love them to death, but I love them so much that if I'm near them, I will
Yeah.
never leave
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'll
Yeah,
never
it's-
leave them.
I get it. It's tough. It's like running away from home. Like
Yeah.
Kind of, and also home's like, I'll pay for everything. Like, don't worry about a thing, dude.
Don't
Oh, your
leave.
favorite meal? 3 times a week. Skin off our back, dude. Come anytime.
Yeah, my mom's still forcefully leaving pozole at my place.
Dude,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish. But my mom dangles it from afar. She's like, "Oh, you want
gotta
this?
come
You
get
gotta
it."
come get it." Yeah.
All right, we got to let Ricky go.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
do a Rick Glassman thing and
Oh.
just 1, 2. Ah. All right. Now I forgot what everybody was saying.
Getting old.
One thing was a story that I wanted to tell, and I feel bad because I haven't talked to. It's about my brother Anthony, our older brother, and I haven't talked to him about this. But he moved. I went to go to Portland. You know, when I was out for 2 weeks,
Right.
I went to go to Portland, and I had some shows out there. But I was spending a lot of time with Anthony, and the thing with Anthony is that he and I grew up as best friends. Like we're super close.
Aw.
And yeah. Jealous?
Yeah, I don't have a brother.
Or friends.
Thanks.
But one of the reasons why I love music, why I love film, why I love art, and why he was the reason I started doing stand up. He's the one that like pushed me to like, he's like, you should do this. You'll be good at it. He's like, you're really funny. You can do this. And he's the one that took me to Chatterbox to see what it was all about. And that's what, he's the reason why I feel like I see creativity. And for a long time, we used to work together. We used to make films together. He's a photographer. He's a really talented dude. And like my brother moved to Portland with his partner in the middle of quarantine. And when he got there, you still had a quarantine. And so there wasn't a lot of opportunities for him to do anything. And for like 2-3 years, he like it was hard for him to make friends. It's hard for him to meet people. It was just him, his partner, their dog. Like they have pets, and to me, I've always wanted to, like, in my heart, like, I know that I've always wanted to keep working with him. And like, I want him to do photography. I want him to do something creative. And like, I have kind of always been like, I'm hoping that he moves back, like always hoping that he moves back to LA and he gets back into photography or filmmaking or something. You know, I've always wanted that for him. And especially because he was out there alone. And when I was there, every time I would talk to him, I would be like, you know, would you consider moving to LA? I would talk to him about it. Like, what are his thoughts? Like, are you staying out there? Are you moving back? And he's like, he's like, I like it out here, you know? And last month when I visited him for the first time that I've ever visited him in the last 2-3 years, however long he's been there, he's had friends. Like, he's made friends. He's met people. I joined his D&D group.
Nice.
Yeah. And like, they have other friends. He and his partner are working on making like couple friends. Over a few days, I was noticing that one, he has friends now. Like, he has a life. He has a routine out there. Like, every day he has like a routine. He takes care of his animals. You know, he is with somebody that he loves. He's been with the same person for over 5 years. Like, I don't even know how long. Maybe 8 years. Maybe as long as I've been doing stand up, I feel like.
He's grown up.
Yeah. And it was a really bittersweet experience to be out there with him because I loved being out there with him and I was super happy for him that he is building a life for himself out there. But it was just like I had a realization of like, you know, our lives are going down different paths. Like, he's doing what's best for him. And he's still, through talking to him, I know he's still like pursuing something creative, like on the side, but like he has a focus and he has a life with somebody and he has a life out there and, you know, and he's happy. And it was just like, I was like, oh fuck. Like, I didn't feel like I was losing my brother, but it was just like a realization of what it must have taken for him to like make that decision. Because for me, I'm like, it's obvious. Like, we're going to be fucking rock stars. Like, we're going to be the best. And like, I remember when I was a teenager, I never imagined not living with my older brother. I always imagined like being an adult. Like, I was so committed to like our success mentally that I was like, we're going to become so successful that we're going to live on an estate. So like, you have a family, I have a family.
Yeah.
We live on the same estate. Like, we have our houses.
I love delusions of grandeur. Love them. Yeah, dude. Me and my homies used to talk about the compound.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
I used to always see that with me and my brother. And like,
hey, I'm your brother now.
soy tu papa.
Yeah. I'll fucking move in that compound with you, Doug.
We'll see about that.
I've always wanted cattle. Yeah. No, I understand that. I kind of had that pretty young though. My parents were business oriented, and so I remember learning pretty early. I was like, oh, everyone's just people. I was like, everyone's just a person doing person stuff, and you got to make these choices, and it can drastically change the trajectory of your life. Just a little choice, you know. And I think I've mentioned before that my parents were very conservative when I was young, and since then they've kind of swung the other way on that. And so like now when I visit my parents, I'm always tripped out because they're so different from they were when I was a little kid. Right. You know what I mean? So yeah, whenever I go home and I talk to my parents and they're like very like, they're more like progressive and more like socially aware than when I was a kid, and they were being like, they did 9/11 because they hate your freedom. You know what I mean?
My fourth grade teacher was like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's what my parents were.
Yeah.
You know, so like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a trip to kind of be like, oh, everyone's just, this isn't you're imagining, it's like the 500 Days of Summer moment where reality and expectations cross, and you're like, oh shit, this is all different than I wanted it to be, or than I thought it would be. Not
Yeah, I just remember thinking about that. Like I totally get that. And it's like it just is like a really somber feeling. Like it's not even I don't know what the word is because it's like somewhere between bittersweet and somber. Like it's like a sad feeling but like a peaceful feeling. I don't know.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know the word for that either. That's a good one.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have a word either, but I have like the way I used to, not used to. I kind of get what you're explaining. I don't have a phrase for it either, but it reminds me of this sort of epiphany I had a couple of years ago of like everyone thinks that common phrase, everyone thinks they're the main person in their story. And then you get older and you realize like there is no story. Everyone is going through their story, but nobody is the character in anyone else's story. It's all just happening at the same time.
There's a word for that.
What is it?
Sonder.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's called sonder. Sonder is the This is a paraphrasing definition of it, but the word sonder means like the sudden realization that every person that you ever walk past, that you come across, has their own life that is just as deep and rich and complex as yours.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. That's deep shit. That's some acid shit right there.
Yeah.
There's a lyric in the Synecdoche, New York song that says, there was only one story and everyone's the star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like
There was a
that's
line from that movie that it was like he's hearing something in his ear,
Mhm.
and it's like you have the realization that nobody was ever watching.
Mhm. There's a lot of little lines in that movie
Yeah,
like that.
I hate that movie.
I don't know why, dude. It's so good. It's so good.
I have my reasons. It's part of it is I just have a chip on my shoulder about stuff where I feel like the artist or like that somebody's. It's like I told you. It was like the feeling is like, oh, but you get it. Like you're the one.
No, it's not that. But also like, yeah, dude, sometimes people get things that not everyone gets. That's what that whole movie's about though, is the passing of time and
Mhm.
how your life will drastically change, but also stay mundanely the same.
Right.
That's like the whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
His wife falls out of love with him. Spoilers. He's planning his show and it turns from a short thing to 15 years of preparation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he's just like trying to perfect his art.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
he ends up being cruel to the people who are closest to him and driving people away because he's just so focused on this thing and ends up taking up his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And he never even learned some of his daughter's names, kind of shit, because he was so driven to that thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is that he dies before it's ever finished. He dies before he ever gets to even put his play on. Like they never. He realizes that this whole time he comes to the realization. Well, he doesn't really come to the realization. The protagonist can never see past the error of his own ways.
Mm-hmm.
But the story, it comes to be that this whole thing, all the preparation, all that stuff was all it. It was all part of it. This whole thing's been a play this whole time. It's already happening.
Right.
You're already doing it. You're not pursuing comedy. You're a comedian.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You're not trying to be. That's the illusion of fame. My dad always used to tell me this one thing, and it's America related, so it's on point. But he used to say, they promise the pursuit of happiness. They don't promise happiness. They promise the pursuit. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, dude. We're just trying to get towards that peak.
Yeah.
The peak that
And
never comes twice.
That's the thing I've been realizing too. Like not the pursuit, but where you're saying like this is it.
This is it, baby. Alan Watts, shout out my
Yeah.
dog.
Right. But yeah, that's kind of the thought process I've been having this weekend of like I have been coming to the conclusion of like every day I'm getting closer to happiness. And part of that is stripping away your ego and your identity and like giving what I want to give myself up to is at least right now, is not stand up. like I had the stark realization, like reading all those fucking comments, dude, about parents and kids and their and relationships and regret and stuff. It just like made me really think about what life is. And I didn't articulate my own thoughts the way that you just explained it, but it was a lot of that. Like, this is life. We're here.
Mhm.
And like,
This is it.
yeah. And so, I've pushed down a lot of things that I've wanted out of life in the pursuit of comedy. And it's like, I feel like I haven't really been giving myself up to it the way that I need to in order to accomplish that. And like, I've had this thought before where it was like, if I really wanted it, I would do it. If I really wanted to be this, playing a stadium, I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
I would do everything that it took to do it. And I haven't been.
Right. There's two sides to that though, because there's also like there's the other side of you that hates yourself. Not you specifically, but all of us. We stop ourselves. The fear.
Right.
It keeps you from it makes you make excuses. It makes you go, I have to do these world things. I have to be a human. I have to have this job. I have to eat food. And you get all bogged down with whether your mom likes you or not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And those things, those fears stop you from letting go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. There is a thing that's been said about this. I don't remember who's it from exactly, but it is a thing I also came to realize on my own is like, especially in like a modern society, you don't exist as one person. You exist as three different versions of that person. There's like you as the individual, you as a member of society, and then like
Hell yeah, I fuck with this.
you as a premise. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
I think maybe I'm not saying it exactly, but the way I've always heard it was who you think you are,
yes,
versus who you actually are,
versus who people see you as.
That, yeah. And then there's also a thing about like a past you, like you're just a result of decisions you've made right
Mhm.
now.
Yeah, but also more specifically, what I'm translating to in a sort of like dumbered down version of that, it's like there's the you that exists to do what you want, and then there's the you that has to also interact with modern society. You know what I mean? Like I can't just pursue comedy. I also need to make sure, like you were saying earlier, that I can afford to eat and live and exist and maintain myself, maintain my space, and a lot of times those things are at conflict, like even just like interacting with my audience, trying to maintain nothing that requires interacting with other people is as simple as just being there. It all requires some level of intentional thought and interaction. And that kind of, I don't know if that is felt more by people with neurodivergency than other people, but I think that does relate to why spoon theory is so prevalent with people with disability and neurodivergency. Is like we're just more aware of how much we're actually doing. We're doing as much as everyone else is. We just know that we're doing it. You know what I mean?
Kind of. Maybe I'm struggling to understand a little bit. Because
You took it to a different place than I was expecting, so it was a little bit hard for me to follow. Not that it was a bad thing, I can't speak on what you're talking about. It
kind of sounded like you were saying you're like more conscious of your every action?
Kind of, yeah. When it comes to like interaction. Like I guess what I was saying was like I think about it a lot, and I think that's because I am aware of it more than like non-neurodivergent people, but it's still a thing of like people don't realize that they change their tone of voice, they change how they talk, they don't realize that they are constantly putting in effort to do everything, like not just physical effort, mental intention.
For sure. I think I understand what you're saying now, because I agree. I'm not neurodivergent, but I do see that in some people, like a lot of people. I'm like, oh, there's no one behind the eyes here. This guy's just acting purely on. I say they're like floating along, like, whereas I feel like I'm being hyper aware of everything, and I'm like, did you
Right.
see what this person just did? Like, I'll do that. I'll have moments like that with Dominic all the time, where I'll be like, you know what's going on, right? They're trying
Yeah.
to. I don't know.
Or like I'll sometimes my little brother and I will go. He'll like meet me at shows or mics, or he'll be my ride, and then afterward I'll be like, "What do you think of that comic?" And they'll be like, "Well, did she have to talk about sex so much?" I'm like, "Are you saying that?" I'll be like, "You know what you're doing, right? Like you think that because you're used to male comics, but you know."
Yeah, no, that's funny. I was just talking about that. With,
Oh yeah, say what you said about like
my
female-
joke. The joke I was trying to. I was saying that female comedians talk a lot about their vaginas, and that's like a thing. People are always like, "Oh, they're just making pussy jokes, basically," and it's like, dude, a vagina for a girl is a huge part of their life. Like they bleed from it monthly. They like have to keep it clean in ways guys don't have to keep their dicks clean. Like it affects a lot of things they do, and they have to have babies. Like they don't have to, but they have babies. Like
babies come out of there.
Yeah, it's a big part of their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So of course they it's on their mind. They think about it. It's part of their
Yeah.
life.
There's an entire section of the store dedicated to just that.
yeah, you know what I mean? And countless websites.
Stupid.
Sorry.
Stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I thought it was a good point because it's just like but I do think that point is, I don't know. I laughed when you said that because it is true. It's just like, not that that's all.
No, I don't think that's all women. That's not
That's
all
all
women
they think about. But it's like,
not at
yeah,
all. But it's a huge part of their life. So of course
Yeah.
it's going to come up, and of course other women are going to relate to it. So of course that material is going to do well
Mhm.
because it's relatable for women. And the other thing is that guys talk about their dicks all the time.
Yeah.
all
that-
the fucking time. They talk about sex and dicks and dating and the same exact subjects they complain about women talking about. Drive me crazy.
yeah.
Now women being funny, that's a different question. I'm
Shut the
sorry.
fuck up.
I love women comedians. It's one of my
So I
favorite.
mean, we'll move on from
Blair Silky, dude. Is that how you say her name? Saki?
Saki.
She's hilarious. I laugh at like every joke she says.
Right.
She's one of my favorites right now.
One of my favorite. Most of my favorite comedians are women. Ember Knight, Christina Catherine Martinez, Jessica Rose is really funny.
Jessica
Blair
Rose is really
Saki.
funny.
Jessica
cut this-
Seeley, a
Dude, Jessica
crusher.
Seeley's great, dude. That fucking you're blocking my merch.
That was hilarious. Oh,
I don't
man.
even think it'll
We-
play.
We won't
but
talk about
yeah,
it.
yeah,
It won't
but-
play. But Jessica Seeley is a hilarious comedian.
Yeah, great voice.
Yeah, so many people are just like, it's just funny, and it's like, I don't know. We started talking about female comics, but
sorry. Well, let's cut back to our regular conversation.
Yeah. I think what I was trying to get at was like functioning with other people gets more exhausting the more aware you become.
Do you
Like
think-
that's where that saying comes from, ignorance is bliss. I feel like what they mean is like you don't just have a new understanding about life and perspective and the people around you, but you also can see that in other people. Like I used to joke with Diego, like the problem with when you're the problem with being the first person to go to therapy is you can see why everyone else needs therapy, but you don't know how to explain it to them.
yeah.
It's kind of like a parent watching a kid with their first car. Like you know how to fix it, but you can't explain it to them. They have to learn on their own, or else otherwise it's not the same.
My biggest thing with all of this is just like the idea of letting go of stuff, like having like just it's all a practice in letting go. Like that's what I've been dealing with lately, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a thing that I've given as advice to people on the podcast and just in general is like, just keep doing it. Like find a way to keep doing it and get better, and like you can find success. But on the flip side, where I am now, I'm just like, you really gotta there's a clip that I reposted on TikTok. I don't know the name of the podcast, but there's this I don't know if he's a psychologist, but he is this person named Gabor Mate.
Okay.
and he specializes in trauma, and he talks a lot about trauma and the importance of play in life.
Trauma is my specialty.
And there's a clip of him that he talks about. One of the first things he said was like, if I could do life all over again, I wouldn't do it the way that I did it. And he says how he lived his life like seeking validating his existence, and reached a lot of success, but he dedicates so many times to work and to pursuing like a career. And now in his I don't think he's like super old, but in his older age, he was like, I missed a lot on like being with my family, seeing my kids and spending time with them, and like enjoying life with them, and putting my family before my career. Essentially, that's like a rough like paraphrase of what he was saying. And I just feel a lot of that. Like I feel like I'm approaching middle age. You know, if my family history has anything to tell me, like, you know, in my 30s, like, I don't know how long I'm gonna live, but like, it was. I don't know. Do you see it as a midlife crisis? But it was just like, my point is like, I was just thinking about that. Like, that's a big influence on me right now. Is just like, I've known since I was a kid that I've wanted a family. And like we talked about dating and relationships a lot. I don't know if we talk about we do talk about it on the podcast. I talk about dating all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I have had conversations about relationships and like me dating, and like I always talk about the 2-month curse and like never
Right.
being in a long-term relationship.
Right.
But I know that since I was a kid, I wanted that, and through much of my dating life, you know, I would be like, you know, if the person I end up with wants it, you know, then we'll do like, then yeah, but if they don't, then, you know, it won't happen.
I think that whole thing about like, oh, I should have not focused so much on my career. I should have spent time with my family. Like that thing. I think that's a grass is always greener situation, because the flip side is the people who gave themselves to their families, and then they get to that older stage and they're like, I could have done so many things, and I just been at home. I just been with like these people took out my whole life.
I get that, and it's
Yeah.
different for the thing is that it's different for everybody. The
Facts.
what I took from that. Sorry, my voice is being raised.
No, you're cool, dude.
I'm excited, but the thing that I took
Get hyped,
from
dog.
the thing that I took from this, and another thing that he says in the clip, like he doesn't take away from pursuing passions.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I took from it was like, I don't feel the need to seek validation in the way that I did with stand-up anymore. I clung to the identity of being a professional comedian, and I've spent a lot of mental energy on trying to pursue that. And I'm still going to do stand-up here and there. Like I'm still going to practice, and, you know, as jokes come to me, I'll still do it. But like, I just
Died.
do you want to sit here?
I could, but it doesn't really matter, honestly.
I don't remember what I said. But the thing that I took from that, sorry if I'm repeating myself, I don't remember where I left off, but you know, he doesn't, in the clip, he doesn't talk about not pursuing your passions, but it's just like, I can't give up myself the way that I feel like I need to, and I haven't been, and I've put off a lot of stuff that I knew that I wanted, and like, I'm still going to pursue passions. Like this podcast is now more than ever, I want to put everything like, and I feel like I can dedicate myself to this show in a way that I can't to doing stand up, because we come here every week. Shut up. We come here every week.
Wrong couch.
We show up here every week. Shut the fuck up.
It's actually not.
We record every week. You know, when I'm not working, I can pursue a job somewhere else. I can and I have the free time after work to like work on the show and like develop stuff. And also I still have the opportunity with them. Like it's still pretty flexible where I can like take time off when I need to, not too much time, but like I can take time off and like do stuff when it comes up. So the big thing that I took away from it is just like, I don't feel the need to seek validation from accomplishments in the way that I did before. And I don't need to seek validation through stand up. It feels really good. There's no better feeling in the world that I've experienced yet outside of being in love with somebody than being on stage and crushing.
Oh, you're saying being on stage is the best feeling?
Having a like a good set, like where you're like crushing it, and like you're.
I thought you were saying losing the feeling of like needing to accomplish things.
No, the feeling, that feeling isn't necessary.
That feeling's freeing for me.
It's freeing, but it's also like,
I remember the first time I had it. Dropped out of high school.
oh, that feeling, it's not the same for me. It's not sensual like the way that being on stage is. That sounds gross, but like I'm not performing with the heart on. But I just mean like it was freeing, but it was also like painful. Like it was like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like when you do a deep tissue massage and it hurts and you're releasing a lot of tension. I didn't feel physical pain like that, but it was a thing of like, dude, coming to the conclusion. I can't say.
I mean, hey,
arriving at the conclusion.
Yeah, the climax.
Son of a bitch. Arriving at the conclusion that I want to take a step back from comedy, and even now when I'm saying it, it's like I'm still.
It feels weird.
It still feels weird because it's like it's still hard for me to say I'm quitting stand up.
I was just about to say, like, I just saw a thing that said, like, basically say, like, think about the thing that you love doing and say, I quit. And, like, if it feels weird to do it, then you don't really want to quit. Like,
there's always going to be part of me that wants to do it. And I know that. And, like, the thing is, like,
yeah. That's a part of maturing, too, being able to make those choices.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And the things that I want out of life, having stability and having, and again, I'm not stepping away from this show. Like I'm putting more effort into this show and like us growing, and that for me, having a personal life that I've always wanted is way more important to me than the validation I get through stand up. And as good as it feels and as weird as it feels that like I said, I'm still hesitant to say that I'm quitting, but I always leave the option open for me to come back to it in the future. But for now, it's just like I have to give myself up to something else.
I understand. I mean, I like switching hobbies, so I totally get it.
It's not a hobby, Josh.
Okay, well, I meant
I'm
like
just kidding.
I just used the word hobby, but I mean like I consider myself to do all of the things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I make art, I make music, I do comedy. It's hard for me to say I do comedy still because I'm still new. Still feels weird, but I've always been funny.
Now say I quit.
Yeah, and I still don't know if it's because I'm just like not 30 yet. I'm still in a place where comedy is my biggest pursuit outside of just being stable, and because of that, I'm not pursuing that aspect of my life. Like I'm not pursuing a personal life right now. I won't go into like huge amount of detail for people's privacy, but like there's been several situations in the last 2-3 years, literally since Isimo, where I've been approached by people, I've been talking to people, and I've had to be like, this is just not where I'm at right now. And before we do anything, what? No, just like I've specifically said no to dating people, and it's felt weird, but it's like I just haven't reached a point where that felt like it took priority over what I'm doing now.
I think that's great. Like it's still like that's still just as valid. Like this conclusion that I'm coming to is like just for me, and like I still see both things. Like I still, if people are listening and they have a career path and they have passions that they want to dedicate themselves to, I think that's very valid and still important to pursue. And if people are struggling with what they want to pursue, or like they're afraid of letting things go. I mean, at least for
Yeah.
me, I'm just like, I've reached a place where I've had to take stock and become okay with it. And it was a hard I will say this, that it was the hardest decision to accept. Like the path of me getting to the acceptance was super hard. I was like kind of arguing with myself internally. But once I kind of reached that conclusion, it was easy for me to commit to. Like it was easy for me. It just became easy. It was freeing.
Yeah.
That freeing
No,
moment.
I understand.
And
Right.
I will say this, dude. And I wish I would have told Ricky, said it. I told you guys before we started recording, and I wish I would have said it while Ricky was here so I could say it on tape. But like you and Ricky, like you should be pursuing comedy because you guys are great at it and you guys are getting spots and like you're putting in the time and effort. You're doing the work that
Yeah.
it takes. And the fact that you, of all people, I don't know why I said of all people, but you're in a situation where you don't have a car and you live far from where you perform,
Yeah.
and it's hard for you to do it. And the fact that you are doing it and you're growing and you're becoming successful at it, it just shows me like that stuff wasn't happening for me. You
Yeah,
know?
and I do think that's also part of it. Not just my dedication to like pursuing comedy, but also my aversion from those other things in my life is like I don't want to say that I'm holding myself back from dating anyone because I don't feel ready. It's more like this isn't right now, and I feel like this might sound self-deprecating. It's not. Where my head is at is like I like who I am now, but this is not somebody that I want to share just yet. Like, I don't want to share me, who I am now, with someone else. I want to share who I will be with someone else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. And like, yeah, like I also had the thought too. I was talking to my boss about this, and like I told him like, yo, I want like a more permanent situation here. Like I want, and he kind of asked about it, and I was just like, I told him that I was taking a step back from stand up,
Yeah.
and he was like, why? Essentially, and because he was super supportive of me,
Yeah.
of the podcast, of comedy. He always asked me how it's going, asked me if I record, what do we talk about, do we have guests? Like he asked a lot of questions, very supportive. So he was like confused, like shocked. And you know, fuck, what were you saying?
Well, I do
about-
have another part.
The last
After.
thing that I remember what I was gonna say. Just the last thing about that was that I was like, I'm not in my 20s anymore. Like I
Yeah.
just don't have. If it would be different if I was in my 20s and if I had this realization then, and I had the resources to dedicate myself the way that I needed to. It's just like I'm in a place where I just have to shift focus and rededicate myself to something else that is more important to me internally.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what I was saying before, where I'm still debating whether or not it's just because I'm young, because I also currently don't have those resources, but I do. There's this thing in me that knows that like whether or not it will happen is dependent on my efforts.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as I put that effort in, I am confident that it will happen.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I will to briefly touch on what you had said earlier. I did have sort of a similar freeing feeling. I don't want to say that I'm like what's the word? Voluntarily celibate. But not having to think about whether or not I want to be in a relationship all the time feels very comfortable.
How is it coming to that conclusion? Nice.
I'm also voluntarily
Sometimes
celibate.
it's dehydrating.
I'm also voluntarily celibate, but I give a bit away too.
So you're bold?
Sorry.
Gross. No, but what I mean
monk.
is like
Got it.
because it's also been a weird thing becoming older. You know, you start to realize like things like body type and what is sold as how things work as far as dating and is not how it actually is. Like it's one thing that I will comment on because I was shy and I was I never dated in high school. My first serious relationship wasn't until I was like in my 20s. And before that, I didn't even really date. I was just talking to people online until I found someone that wanted to do that for a long time. So breaching like 26, one thing that was like new to me, honestly, was like more than one person in real life, like telling me that they're attracted to me. And
Hell yeah.
so there is a part of me that it was a weird feeling because like for the first time, I was confident and comfortable enough to like myself enough to interact that way. But at the same time, I just don't want to right now. And what's been kind of funny about it for me, honestly, is having straight friends and seeing how much straight guys think about that all the fucking time. Like a lot. Like we'll be sitting quietly watching TV, me and a group of friends, and then just the subtlest angle and someone would be like, damn. And everyone else will be nodding. And I'm like, seriously, guys? Like,
It's
we're
so
watching
funny.
Cops. Calm down.
It's so funny when you said damn, I started nodding.
Yeah, exactly.
I was
It's
like,
like,
oh yeah.
it's so funny being because also it's been a thing where like for the longest time, my best friends, my closest friends have always either been women or female presenting people or queer people. So like that compared to when I'm just hanging out with straight dudes is such a huge contrast. Like 60% of what you guys talk about is butts.
You guys?
Yeah, you think this dude's straight?
Straighter than me.
I'm just kidding.
And it's hilarious how often straight guys talk about butts. It's
Ye-
gross, but it's funny.
What? I mean, yeah. I don't know.
I don't know where this conversation is going.
Me either. We gotta wrap.
Well,
soon.
I was relating it to like I was trying to make a joke out of it, but I was also relating it to what you were saying about not thinking about sex all the time is relaxing. Like not worrying about interacting in that way.
Whatever
Not-
gets you there.
No, you might have
What I mean is,
misunderstood. He wants to have sex real bad. That's why he's going to stop
That's
doing
why he's
comedy so he
stopping
can get his
comedy,
life
so he
together. Just
It's not about sex.
It's all about sex, baby.
Well, it just mean for me, it's just not. I don't feel that I'm ready to put energy into that side of my life yet.
Right.
And so right now that I'm not trying to eat, not even just sex, like dating and incorporating your life into somebody else's, weaving your lives together. I don't have the mental capacity for that right now. And I am doing my best to be honest about that. Like, that's why I don't think it's just like celibate. I think it's like, I'm not, I don't want to, ready sounds immature. Like right now, that's just not my end goal.
There's also a thing about reading about meeting the right person.
Yeah.
Facts. And I think that this conversation can be an entire episode because I have a lot to talk about on this.
About relationships.
About relationships and about love perspectives and about not dating. Well, okay, well.
I want to get a relationship expert in here. Like, I have.
Ask me anything you want.
Because that is also something.
Shoot.
But I do think that is something, just to put a button on what I was saying
Okay.
before, like, I do think that would change if I met someone who I vibed with enough to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I mean,
Now you got your glasses. Love at first sight's a thing, dude. I
That
have it all
might
the time.
also have been it. I haven't worn glasses in over a decade.
yeah, I haven't worn contacts.
need
I
them.
need them. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is similar to the show about nothing. This is another, like, this is more just me expressing something I've been going through. This is not as digging into a topic and like coming to a conclusion. It's just like,
I think we've come to some conclusions.
that's gonna be the name of the episode. Coming to
God,
conclusion.
We can't. We have to monetize this.
Conclusion,
Yeah, it's-
Conclusion Jones.
it's yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wanted, this has just been on my mind, and like there's things about the podcast that I've wanted to do that we haven't done. There's directions that I've wanted to go in. There's stuff that I'm like I said, every day I'm getting closer to like realizing what my goals are, and I don't know. I don't in this moment. I don't know what that means yet necessarily for the show. I just know that things are going to be changing, and I think it'll be for the best.
Things aren't gonna like fucking drastically change so much so that it's even worth noting to me. Things are gonna get better, if that's what you mean.
I just said that.
Well, change is weird.
You fucking moron.
Jesus Christ.
Well,
Better
some
for
things
who?
need to change.
So stupid. Thanks everybody for being here again. And if you made it this far, I don't know, just tell us what's on your mind. What is it called? Open journal. Yeah. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you next week. From us at Un Poquito. Don't fly. You didn't say it.